Hello, YouTube. Today I have a great call with an Indian gentleman that actually lives in the United States. So if you're a US person and you're planning to go offshore in the future, or you want to leave the US and not pay tax in the US, we talk a lot about US residency versus non-residency, US LLCs versus US corps, and how to structure real estate and stock in the future as you decide whether or not you want to continue being a US resident. So it's a little nuanced like all my videos, but if you're here on a U.S. visa, you're accumulating assets, and you're thinking of what you want to do in the future as you retire, this is a perfect video for you. Okay, so I hope I know it's a very distinct person, but I hope if that's you, you're here right now watching the video, and I hope that before we get to the actual call, you leave me a thumbs up and the little button below because that's really helpful. And don't forget to subscribe. Okay, so let's get to the call.
Haven't done my taxes, I'm too turned up. Haven't done my taxes, I'm too turned up.
I'm doing great. Thanks for showing up for the call.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your time as well.
Yeah, looking forward to speaking. Let me see if you put any notes on your calendar. I do these calls back to back. I smash them from 11 to 12, or no, from 10 to 12:30. So I just do like 6 or 7 calls or however, then 30 minutes each.
Yeah, not a problem.
So I have no notes here. Can you where are you calling me from today?
So I'm calling you from Seattle, actually. Actually, let me just forward this to you. I think you did respond back to quite a bit of my notes as well. So
okay. Well, I'll find your email and go through, but
I just resent it to you. So
let's see. Okay. Okay. So you have a bunch of questions. So did you talk to Joaquin already?
yeah, I did.
Okay, so you probably have
So
more questions. He's really an immigration
yeah.
attorney, but he helps out with a lot of the easier questions, but he might have more questions, I guess.
Right. I think most of my questions are related to tax and, what's the best way to set up LLCs and things like that, considering my situation is slightly different than most folks who come on the call.
Yeah, you're a U.S. resident.
I'm a U.S. resident, but I'm not a citizen. So
You still pay taxes here, though, I guess, in Seattle.
yep.
I think Washington, you don't pay any taxes in that state, though, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no state tax. So
yeah, that's good. It's like us in Florida on the other side of the country.
Oh, sweet. Okay. But yeah, I mean, so let me just probably give you a rundown of the situation and what I'm looking
please.
for and things like that, and probably help you out. I'll help you understand the situation. So, basically, what I'm looking at today or right now is that I'm a resident, but I'm not a citizen. And over the past few years, I've been accumulating a lot of assets and stuff, and then I'm looking to do the FIRE situation, financially independent early retirement. So kind of part of that, and my goal is to kind of like build up enough assets that I can retire in probably about 10 years or so.
Great.
And I'm not looking to retire necessarily in the United States, but probably somewhere where the capital gains are tax free, travel the world and other things, so that's kind of what I'm trying to do. But as far as I was looking into, various ways in which I can hold assets and things like that. So some of my questions related to like, if I'm looking at properties or if I'm looking at other assets that I'm holding in the United States, I'm still going to be paying taxes, eventually, even if I leave them here and even if I leave the country.
Well, real estate in the U.S. is great because if you want to keep reinvesting and stuff, you have the 1031 exchanges, you have depreciation. There's a lot of ways to not pay tax on real estate in the U.S. and pay like minimum tax.
Right. How does the situation change though if I go outside the United States?
It
And I
doesn't.
hold assets.
It doesn't really. You just have to structure how you hold them better to protect against estate taxes, and it might cost a little bit more in taxes if you have like some kind of corporate structure, unless you put stuff in a trust or whatever you want to do. It's different for everyone, but the very common is having like a foreign holding corp that owns the U.S. corporation that owns the property, and you're going to pay a higher tax rate on any profits, but you know how it is with depreciation expenses. The profits are generally a little lower unless you have a really awesome property that just generates a ton of profit for you, which might have to pay some tax. But you hold it that way, so it what's the word, protects you against estate taxes. If you're going to have a lot of, there's give and take, because then if you own it personally, you pay less capital gains on sales and you pay less regular taxes on the profits. But if
Right.
you die, then your estate tax is going to be really high.
Okay. So thinking about this a little bit more, I know I've read about the Wyoming LLCs and then international LLCs as well, typically based off in like Cayman or BVI or something like that. So as far as real estate owning, so you're indicating that if I do have properties in the United States, they probably should be held by US LLCs, which are in turn held by international LLCs. Is that how you're?
No, corporations, not LLCs.
Okay, so how does the LLC differ from a corporation?
They're very, very different. The principal difference is that an LLC is pass-through taxation. It's like it doesn't exist. If you own a property with an LLC, you report the taxes and the income, and you pay taxes on your personal tax return. If you
Okay.
have a corporation, the corporation has its own tax return, and the corporation pays taxes.
Okay, but if I am going to be outside the United States, how would that change the situation whether I own an LLC or a corporation?
It's exactly the same.
Okay.
If you own an LLC, you pay taxes. You still have to pay, because the property is located here in the U.S., so you have to pay
Right.
taxes in the U.S. So you just file a 1040 NR, and you just
Okay.
file a different tax return personally and pay the taxes personally. The
Okay.
reason you wouldn't want to do that is because of the estate tax implications. But the general tax implications are usually a little bit better owning stuff personally, just because the capital gains rate gets to mostly usually like around 15%, gets up to 20%. But the corporate tax rates start at 21%.
Okay. All right, cool. So I think that kind of clarifies a little bit more. I may have to start looking into corporations if eventually the end goal is to be living outside the United States, but holding assets in the United States.
Well, it depends where you want to live and where you want to be a resident. I just worked with this guy who basically lives like, the plan is to live in the U.S. The max he can without being a U.S. Tax resident. So it's like 4 months a year, and he's going to be living in Mexico for less than 6 months a year, and he has a house
Right.
there, and then he's going to be living in other places for the other 2 months, and that way he's not really going to pay taxes anywhere because he's a Canadian citizen. So
Okay.
where are you a citizen of?
So I'm a citizen of India right now.
They don't like make you pay any taxes when you're not living in India, right?
When I'm living in India, yes.
When you're not,
When
I
I'm
know
not
when
living,
you're not living in India. I know I talked to a lot of
no.
Indians, and I know you guys pay a lot of taxes in India.
Yeah, not in India. If I'm not living there, then no, I don't. So
Yeah,
my goal is not to go back there. So
well, you
which will
always,
end up
the
like,
thing is everyone wants to have you want to have a passport, and like
right.
that's something we do too. We can definitely get you a passport in like Grenada or St. Kitts or something, and if you wanted to really be like a global citizen. But most people like yourself, you can travel with your Indian passport and then not live in India and live in other countries and
Oh
just,
yeah, I
you
am
know,
aware. Actually, yeah, there have been. I have been thinking about like Grenada or St. Kitts and some of the other places as well that do provide passports, which pretty much get. I think the access to a larger number of countries is what I'm looking for as well. I think
yeah, I can
India
definitely
provides
help you with that.
access.
We have I was just talking to we work really closely with a company that does that. I was on the phone with the president of that company yesterday for a couple of times, and he was telling me that in Grenada, St. Kitts, they have like hotel developments, and basically you purchase an investment property and like
Right.
a brand new
Yep.
hotel, and it's like 200 grand, and you have this place, this residence, and then you also get a passport. So it's like the cost of the passport, it becomes very minimal because you're investing in real estate that again you can rent out because they're kind of tourist destinations too.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I can definitely help you with those options as well.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, that's really good to know. So a few other follow-up questions that I've got. So one of the first things is like I already own a lot of assets right now,
Maybe
and
like
I'm kind of
properties, like
thinking,
real estate.
well, mostly in investments like stocks and things like that.
Okay.
So as far as those are concerned, currently I do pay capital gains and things like that when I do sell it. but I'm seeing, is it, considering the situation, would it still be best to kind of like own it here or be outside and own it in brokerages, or how would that work?
When you're a non-resident, you don't pay tax on capital gains in the U.S., so you can run your U.S. stock portfolio and pay no capital gains when you become a non-resident.
But I do understand they withhold 30%, right?
Only on dividends, only on dividends. So you can have $100 million of capital gains and not pay taxes. But if you invest in only dividend stocks, then they will withhold 30%. But most non-residents don't invest in dividend stocks. They switch their strategy, invest in capital gains and mutual funds and ETFs
Right.
or whatever, so that they don't actually get dividends. And that way, you don't pay any taxes.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah,
So
that
it's
actually
pretty
sounds.
awesome because you get it in the U.S. market, U.S. brokerages. The issue there again is the state taxes, because U.S. stock is an asset, and if you die, then and you have family and you want the assets to go to them, they would have to show you filed your state tax return and paid your state taxes before they'll release any funds. So that's something that we can get around that too, with like partnerships or different entities, different things, but we can get around that too. But that's only when you become a non-resident.
Okay. Cool. And then I had one last question. This is something that I came across as well, holding real estate through SDIRAs. And this is Roth SDIRAs that I'm talking about. Are you familiar with those as well?
Yeah.
So how's that different from holding through a corporation? Because I understand Roth SDIRAs are also like,
Are you
again,
invest?
considering the situation that I would be outside the United States.
Well, it's a U.S. source like investment, right? Because you deferred your
Right.
taxes or you invested in it while living in the U.S. and it's held in a U.S. brokerage or whatever. So the same estate tax rules apply, from my understanding. So that in that IRA, and I've seen it in practice because a lot of people, I put up a bunch of videos about non-resident estate taxes, and I get people reaching out to me that saying that my uncle died and he had $180,000 in his retirement fund and in
Right.
stock, and they won't give it to me until I file these forms. So it's the same estate tax thing, but it's but you still don't pay taxes on it or anything. And the one thing with retirement accounts though, is that when you get your, and again, you look pretty young. Like you don't look very old.
Yeah, I know.
So the retired minimum distributions, like you only take distributions from your IRA when you're 70, and then they would withhold 30%. So it's a U.S.
Right.
source asset, and on retirement accounts, they will withhold. Actually, they withhold 30%. I don't know if they withhold on a Roth.
Yeah, that was the question, because I think the most of the options that I'm looking for is like Roth, because there are no RMDs and you don't have there are certain things that you don't have a minimum
But
age
why
that you need
even,
to take a
if you plan
distribution
on
and
leaving,
stuff. So
why even put it in a Roth if you plan on leaving
no, so
anyways?
that wasn't my original plan when I first started. So, but then I figured out like there are a lot more options outside and a lot of things that I can be looking at and stuff.
They have
So
offshore retirement accounts that you can use, and I'm still learning about those a little bit. So is most of your stuff in retirement? I mean, you're probably, if you're
no, actually
H1B,
not.
no, it's not, right? Because you're probably only
No.
putting in your 20,000 a year in retirement, right?
Yeah, it's only the max that they allow you to put in retirement, so that's
Yeah, it's
all I've
like
been contributing, not more than that. But they're
17,000 or something. Yeah. So
right.
you've done that so you might have like 150 in a retirement account. So the rest is going to be
Yeah,
outside.
yep.
What do
So
you do? I'm curious. H1B, you're a smart guy.
uh, I'm a program manager basically. So
Okay, Amazon or something out in
one of the big companies.
one of the big companies. Sure, I know there's a number of. I think Microsoft, Amazon. I think there's a bunch of big ones out in Seattle. I have a bunch of Microsoft guys out there. I do taxes for.
I hope this part will be edited out though.
No, I mean we didn't say. I mean I'm just speculating. We don't have to, like, you didn't say anything.
Okay.
But I mean, what's wrong with having employees who are fiscally responsible planning their retirement? There's nothing wrong with that. Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, you have a lot of options, and especially as a non-U.S. citizen, you can basically leave, keep investing in the U.S. market, and keep
Right.
drawing and using your money however you want with paying very minimal taxes.
Yeah, I mean, my goal has been to try and invest as much as possible now so that I can kind of enjoy later. You know, I've wanted to kind of like, travel a lot but I've been holding off on it just so I could save up all my assets now and then kind of live off the assets. That's what's been my goal so far. So that's how I've been kind of operating as well. But
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really
yeah,
great strategy. I think
yeah,
that
and
some of your questions about international companies and all of these things like international LLCs, some of it doesn't really matter and a little bit's overcomplicated.
yeah.
So I think for you right now, to keep it really simple, just keep saving, keep investing, and when you're really ready to pull the trigger, we can have a call and discuss residency and discuss how you want to set things up and do it. But for now, what you're doing is fine.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. There's one last thing that I did want to ask you as well. I know that being on H-1B, I cannot run any business outside. I mean, inside the United States at least. I don't know. Is it okay to run outside? I doubt it as well, because I would still have to
Now
declare
that was
those
your
income.
Joaquin question. That was your question for Joaquin.
Yeah. Okay.
He's
I
not
may
in
have
the
to
office
ask
right
him
now,
that.
so I can't ask him. Can I run a business
Okay.
outside? The thing is, like, I don't understand how, people come in on a student visa and they're not allowed to work. But how do you stop someone from like having a side hustle and just like getting paid? Like, I don't understand how you
Yeah,
um
there are certain. I think some of those, immigration laws are not really good or not really great. But it is
immigration
what
is a
it is.
mess.
It is
Yeah,
what it is.
from a
That's so.
quick Indian citizen H-1B visa holder, can I run a startup in India? It said no. An
Yeah,
H-1B
you can know.
worker is generally not permitted to work for any employer or run his own startup without authorization from USCIS, even if the company is located abroad.
Yep.
That's from
So.
Quora, so basically it has to be the truth.
The internet is always right, but
Well, I
anyway.
use Google as a launching point, and then I get the real facts.
All right. Yeah, I guess that kind of answers the last question that I had as well, is about, if I did have a corporate tax structure or LLC tax structure, then I can probably run off my business, but for that, I would probably have to be on a different visa or outside the United States, basically. So,
I mean, you get away with, you can do whatever you want. You can open an LLC in your uncle's name, your mom's name, and then just do the services that way. Then get paid.
all
People
right.
do that all the
Yeah.
time. I just talked to a guy whose mom owns his LLC. I'm like, okay, buddy, your mom owns it, but so like it's the tax system in the IRS is, and like the way information is shared is like, there's just, how it is. There's just so much information out there.
Right.
So
Right.
there's certain triggers that are obvious, but everything else is just noise, and it's an insane amount of noise. I don't know. The IRS, all their systems are super antiquated. USCIS is, I think, shut down right now. So I don't know how any of these people, what's the word? How they enforce all of these laws that they're doing and all these rules, especially when some of them are super antiquated and ancient or whatever. So if you want to start a business, I think the risk would be very, very low to do it and to get rolling on it.
Okay. All right. Cool. I think that answers most of the questions I had. And I think the biggest clarification that you provided was the LLCs and corporate, the difference there. So I definitely should go back, and I'm guessing you're probably recording the video as well, so I can go back and take a look at it, some of the answers that you provided as well. So,
Yeah, I am recording. I mean, this is like why I can justify doing free calls all day, is because I put it on my YouTube channel, and that's probably how you
right.
found me, I'm sure, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
so the corp, again, the corp is a standalone resident entity. When you become a non-resident, if you have like a US business, an office, a warehouse, employees, or anything physically here, you would want it in a corporation because it provides a better, like a separation from you. Because the problem with not using a corporation is that the US, if they were to ever audit you, and the rare chance, they would want to pull in all of your income from all over the world instead of just what was earned in the US. The corporation is how you kind of segregate US source income from outside of the US income, when,
Okay.
in most cases. And it also makes it easier for different things, like the corporations are easier for raising capital for startups because you can sell shares. LLCs don't have shares, they just have a membership interest.
Right.
So that's like another big distinction, is the share, having actual stock and shares, or just having an interest in the company, like a partnership interest.
So, okay. And one last thing was that the entities that hold the real estate would be US LLCs, but then the US LLCs would be owned by an international corporation. Is that correct?
No. So
Or
if you,
so I did mix up.
yeah, okay, so you mix it up. So there's two ways to do it, and it's all centered around the estate taxes. The taxes are going to be lower if you own the real estate yourself, but again, the estate taxes are higher if you have any concern about estate taxes at all. If you own everything personally, because the U.S. will impose estate taxes on U.S. source assets, and the exemption is only $60,000. So the value of anything over 60,000, stock, real estate, the IRS is going to take 40% of before they give to your family. So it's a huge tax, and it's something that with like real estate and stocks held in a brokerage, you can't just not do, because they won't release it to your family unless you do it, right? So you can protect against that either by a good insurance policy and then pay the taxes and take your chances, or you can put it in a structure that protects against estate taxes. For investing, you can use a partnership, because partnerships, interestingly enough, don't have estate taxes. And if you have two partners, the partnership will never die. It'll always stay open. That's one way for doing investing. But for real estate, it's generally like a foreign corp that doesn't pay any taxes, that owns a U.S. corp that owns an LLC, and the LLC would be connected to the property, and the U.S. corp would pay the taxes. It's a little
I see the structure now. Okay.
Yeah, you see it now, right?
Okay.
You can also use foreign trusts that own but basically, if you have an LLC, it passes through. So if a foreign corp owns an LLC, the foreign corp would be paying U.S. taxes.
Right.
That's even worse.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Fun stuff, right?
Yeah, it is. Thanks so much. I think that helped a lot and answered a lot of my questions. So
if you need help with your U.S. tax filings and stuff, I do that too, and we're pretty reasonably priced. I think I'm really great price for my experience. But let me know if next year if you haven't, when you need to file or whatever, if you need help.
Sure, definitely will do.
Okay. Any more questions?
No, I think I'm good.
Thanks, and I'm just you're cool with me putting the video on the internet? It's
right.
Fine?
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. Okay, well, we'll be in touch, and thanks again for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
See you.
See ya.
Okay, so that call went really well. I think we had a really great conversation and talked a lot about all the stuff that I thought we were going to talk about: U.S. corps, LLCs, investing, resident, non-resident, offshore, onshore, all the good stuff. If you have questions about what we talked about, you can comment below. If you want to talk to me, the links are in the description. Thanks for watching. If you need help with any of these companies or services or tax planning, definitely reach out. That's what we do. The email is in the description below. And don't forget to like the button right there. Thumbs up and subscribe. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks.